All right, good morning, good afternoon, or evening, whichever you're tuning in from. Welcome to the Truck Around and Find Out podcast, where we like to get together and discuss some of our personal, topics, things that we got going in our day-to-day lives, things that involve some trucking, transportation, hot topics, and our community and our lives here in northern Colorado. I'm your host, Ryan Byers, the owner of Front Range Compliance and DOT University, where we like to help clients, with their DOT, their drug and alcohol, whether we're doing an audit, whether we're trying to help you with your overall program, whether we're managing your program, or maybe we're just there once a year making sure things got done and things are going good. I like to tell everybody we're as hands-on or hands-off as you need us to be, but no matter what, we're going to make sure the stuff is getting done, which unfortunately I can't say about some of these DOT professionals. Keith is unable to join us on this recording, so we're just trying to make sure that we've got another one in the bank to get out there. So Keith, we miss you today, but I know you're out there conducting some business, so good luck with that. And we do have Redbeard here with us. Luke, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good.
All right. Well, welcome, everybody. And, for the topic today, I wanted to talk about some new stuff that the FMCSA is doing. They are at it again. Gosh, since I know it really kind of started about in 2020, it seems like every calendar year we can bank on the fact that the FMCSA is going to be adding stuff, updating, changing things within their website, with their registration. This year, it's called MODUS, and I'm not 100% sure yet. I was kind of looking for it to see what they meant by MODUS, M-O-T-U-S, but it is the Modernization FMCSA Registration. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that because, leave it up to the FMCSA to totally just turn our worlds upside down right going into the holiday season right after the first year. Luke, you remember the big one that happened several years ago back in 2020 called the FMCSA Clearinghouse. You remember that whole deal?
Oh, yeah.
No, that just kind of turned everybody's lives upside down. To be honest with you, I don't necessarily think that everybody has got their clearinghouses even figured out yet since it went down.
I would be surprised if everybody who owned a truck was in clearinghouse.
Yeah, well, they don't, definitely. We run across that. I love it when the reports come out from the FMCSA and it says, hey, we're at 90% compliance, and I'm like, well, they're not talking to the same people I'm talking to, because we still run across a lot of people that are still trying to figure that clearinghouse out. I think they're in compliance as far as like the TPAs and the people that are the MROs that are reporting the tests. I think that's great. As far as companies being compliant, it is still a struggle. And basically what happened was, back in, I believe it was January 6th of 2020, about the same time that COVID was hitting, the FMCSA went through and they launched this great big huge update of bringing all the drug and alcohol positive testing under one roof to report these drivers. Overall well-intended process, but typical federal government, they're going to build this entire huge program by probably the lowest bidder who did that. And leading into that, we kind of were warning everybody for a good year going into it. There was tons of classes. We were holding classes, telling everybody what they had to do. And of course, everybody waited till the last minute. And on January 6th, that day started. I think the system went live, and within several minutes, it crashed.
Yep.
And I believe it crashed for 6 months?
Yeah, it was on and off for a few days after they first launched it, I remember, and then it just took a nosedive after that.
Oh, it was terrible. People got locked out. People had multiple accounts set up. They, where you would call in and your hold time would be 8 to 16 hours. And we're already seeing that with this new MODUS program where people are having trouble when calling in. We had to call for a client last week, and we had a 7-hour hold time, and one of my employees called me up, and I said, yeah, we are not going to sit on hold for that long. So we're try to send an email, see if we can get it worked out. But, I doubt a client is going to want to pay us our fees for staying on hold for them for that long. I mean, it's just not usable. So come on, FMCSA, if you're ever listening to this, please, get your poop in a group, and let's see if we can, keep this thing a little bit more simplified. I think overall, this situation is most definitely definitely going to be well intended. I think once everybody gets it figured out, which I am still in that process. I did play with it just a little bit earlier this week, or I'm sorry, it was late last week, and just with our DOT number, just trying to learn some of the new features and the new touches and some things like that. And it's definitely just a little bit different. I think one of the biggest aspects that I notice is they're tying it to the log me in. So you got to use that. Make sure you have that portal registered with your FMCSA. And if you don't have your portal and you're not using it, which a lot of companies that we work with are small individual companies, maybe they don't have a whole lot of, usually they don't have crashes, or if they don't have inspections, so they don't really see the need to have that FMCSA portal or access it because there's just no data in the FMCSA system. Well, that portal is going to be what syncs everything together and holds that. That's how you're going to be able to access your DOT number. It's where you're going to go to do your biannual updates. No longer going to go to the FMCSA page, click on the update your registration and just go through it and do it very simple. So that is one of those changes has kind of been, that's a little bit of an older change, happened earlier in the year. However, they are tying that your portals more and more to your account. And with that portal comes, you also got to watch out for the scammers, which when we get to the truck around to find out, I definitely want to talk a little bit about some of those scammer situations we have. But right here, coming off of the FMCSA website, we do have this information for the modernization for this whole program, and the whole purpose of this of the Modus is to try to streamline the processes, enhance some fraud prevention, and provide some more intuitive and user-friendly experiences for the supporting companies. That's going to be companies like us here at Front Range Compliance. Seems like they're actually tying our hands on a little bit of things where it makes it a little tougher, but hey, we're going to get it figured out. It's also to help the motor carriers, the brokers, and of course the user or other registrants within that. It says, it kind of continues, it says the FMCSA is dedicated in ensuring everyone can successfully transition into their new system. And here's the plan. Step 1, they're going to limit access for supporting companies. So beginning on December 2025, supporting companies can create a user and business profile in Modus. This is going to ensure the delivery of essential services to the industry and when the system opens for all users. So when they're talking about supporting companies, they are talking about like BOC3s for your insurance, for your or the service, civil service and civil papers, those types of documents. Step 2, new system opens for all users in 2026. All customers, including new existent registrants, will be able to access the systems and take advantage of the enhanced user-friendly registration tools and information. So we do have some more that's going to be kind of coming on. Make sure you get in, make sure that FMCSA portal is up to date. If you have not, to learn some of that system, you log into it, do your update, your biannual update, which you can do at any time. You can, you're only required to do it, once every 2 years, unless there's a major change to your DOT number. But it's kind of a good way to just kind of learn the way that new system, get some of its feels and its touches and things like that. And remember, when you first register for your portal, when you get in there, you don't have access to everything. So you got to go into some of that account management side of it, and you got to go down to user profiles and add some of those features such as data queues, registration, things like that, over into your profile to give yourself the access to that. So that's one of the things that you're going to need to become just a little bit familiar with it. Once you click on that link, it seems that everything is about the same, but getting to it just is a little bit more complicated, or we should say more secure in the eyes of the FMCSA. And then step 3 is going to be continuous improvement. That's the unknown right now. It says the FMCSA is going to continue to release additional functionalities and collect feedback to identify new enhancements. So I know they collect feedback. They get a lot of feedback from individuals. A lot of the clients that we work with aren't the clients us are going to be providing the feedback because we're just kind of, helping them keep up with their process, their programs, some things like that. So, we're just kind of going to be bound to what's coming down with this and how we're going to be moving forward with it. So, that being said, so what's coming down the road with this FMCSA, the modernization of the registration system? It's going to be hopefully a simplified registration process, which should kind of consolidate some of the FMCSA forms. So with that, they're going to be eliminating the MC number, so it should help the operating authority. If you are applying for operating authority now within the registration, they are including those documents together so you can do it all at once. Be careful. Remember, when you're doing your FMCSA registration and the actual getting a DOT number should not cost you any money. And a lot of people get really confused when it comes to the language that is used on there, whether you're a for-hire company or a private property company. And if you select the wrong thing, the system is going to want to charge you $300. And let's ask Redbeard, Luke, if somebody goes through and pays that $300, can you answer this? Does the FMCSA give you that money back?
Absolutely not.
No, of course not. That's kind of like too bad, so sad situation. And we have tried, we have tried to argue with them and get that back. They even have warnings that this is like a one-time shot. So I hope that's one of the things that they clean up to make that a little bit more easily understandable, because so many companies that we work with for the very first time, we discover they applied for operating authority and it was not needed. So we work a lot with like vocational trucking, that hauls their own goods, their own commodities. Operating authority is only required if you are a for-hire company. You are hauling goods and transportation from point A to point B, and you are getting paid to do that and to deliver them from point A to point B. But if you are like going to build a house or build a bridge or pave a roadway and you're taking all your own goods and commodities, you may have been for hire to go build something or go do whatever that vocation is. However, you are not considered a for-hire company. So make sure if you don't understand that, reach out and we'll give you some guidance, that kind of thing. So the other things kind of with this is going to be easily accessible company account pages and manager. I will say I do like the portal, how they have that and how you can access the different FMCSA systems. That is pretty great. Enhance user roles and engage the right people at the right time. Yeah, that's yet to be determined what the FMCSA meaning is at. They're claiming that we're going to be streamlining the registration identification, so all the regulated entities will continue to be identified by U.S. DOT number, and then suffixes at the end of the DOT numbers will indicate each type of registration granted with these. So that's going to be something that we're going to be seeing coming through. The suffixes, just to answer some questions that may come up with this. The suffix is going to be typically the letters at the end or a category at the end of your DOT number. For example, here in Colorado, if you have a Colorado-only intrastate DOT number, state of Colorado wants you to have the letters US DOT, the numbers, and the letter CO at the end of it. However, if you are registering this for your type of registration, for the FMCSA, the suffix is not part of the marking requirement, just the DOT number. So your number may get assigned a suffix, but you're only required to have the US DOT letters followed by the actual number, not the suffix, unless you are like an intrastate company here in Colorado, or if there was another state that offered something like that. The other thing they're saying is going to be improve the intuitive user experience. So it's going to have an auto population tool, real-time validation, smart logic, edit checks, and notifications. So, that should be really nice. I know going through the registration system, the FMCSA requires you to type in your address at least like 5 or 6 times through that whole process, put in your phone numbers. over and over and over again, and it's really kind of counterintuitive, and it takes a lot of time because it's not as simple of a system as just typing it in and moving forward. So that should be nice to kind of help clean some of that stuff up. Mobile device and tablets can be used to view and update registrations on the go. So there's no need to wait for paper form processing. So, the papers, people haven't really been using the papers all that long, but there has been some times such as, when you need to do an update, or if you are dropping your FMCSA registration, or if you're adding something to it, the online system would not allow you to do that. So you'd have to submit everything through paper. And we would usually submit that through the email system that the FMCSA offers. The next thing is to be enhanced verification and fraud reduction. So new identity verification software used and user roles are in there to protect system access and things like that. So you're going to want to make sure you set up those roles, those responsibilities, and of course your lovely security questions. When you do those security questions, make sure, what I did was I took a screenshot of that page after everything was filled out and just filed that away in a secure file, just in case it ever got lost, or maybe one of my employees needs to get access to the system, whichever the case could be. Mobile devices. Oh, nope, I'm on the wrong line here. So the next thing is going to be new business verification information, edit checks, and validation of key, principal place of business and address. And then last but not least is going to be the system will support automated secure processes for users to conduct business electronically. So overall, kind of reading through the list, man, it doesn't really sound like a whole lot, but I think it's a little bit bigger once you get in there and try to get some of the access. I know some of the stuff that Nicole has been calling me on and talking about has just been that it's trouble getting access as a third-party user helping our clients. We kind of discovered that they didn't really have that system set up for companies like us, compliance companies. They had it really set up for BOC3 individuals and some of those other type of outfits. But I'm sure hopefully it will get cleaned up. I know that they said that they did include services for like front range compliance, and they did go through and they gave us our access. However, the pages wouldn't load up, and every time we try to access it, things were getting locked. So it's just kind of like a flashback back to 2020 with that clearinghouse, except right now I'd say the FMCSA can't fall back on COVID and say, oh, no, the world shut down. We're that 2 weeks to curve the whatever it was. Y'all remember that nightmare we went through. So with that being said, I'm just going to kind of get into our truck around and find out our TAFO of the day. And it's really not just of the day. It's all the time. And that is the scams. And Redbeard, you can probably speak. Do we get a lot of spam, a lot of scams?
Probably 2 to 3 emails and 4 or 5 pieces of junk mail every week at least.
Yeah. And that's going to be, usually, and what's funny is we get them sometimes for individual companies. We also get them a lot for my company because we have a DOT number also. So you kind of see a little bit of that. And I get a lot of these scammers will call and they'll get me on the phone and I love to just like let them talk. I figure the longer they're talking to me, the less chance they get to talk to you. And if I have the time, usually I'll just put them on speakerphone and set my phone aside and just kind of half-ass answer their questions here and there. I kept one on the phone for like 45 minutes one time. I was actually having fun. I was apparently very bored that day, but I was having a whole lot of fun with that particular scammer. He wanted information from me, so I told him I was getting it, and I just kind of kept him on the line for a while, and it most definitely didn't end very nice. He got really rude with me, but so watch your scammers. We used to at DOT University YouTube channel, we used to try to point out the spammers. I call them the spammer scanners, and we do videos on these companies that were sending out scams, emails, and the letters, and you'd get them, and they're very threatening language. Even the FMCSA, is cautioning you on these scams that are out there. And so we were putting some videos together, and then next thing you know, I was getting served with potential lawsuits from these companies that decided to come after me. And so I just had to make a decision that it wasn't really my battle to fight. I would love to fight that battle. But the time, the money, and the lawyers, and that kind of thing, because the videos we would put out were based off of the scam letters that they were sending me, and the threatening language and the things that they were telling me personally for my DOT number. So I feel like I definitely could have probably weathered the storm, but I just made the decision like, hey, we don't have time. This is not our business, not what we do. So I pulled the videos down just to end everything and said, hey, instead I'm just going to do some self-awareness and just, talk to our clients and let them be aware. And we get those phone calls. I get several of them each and every week, of people that get some type of threatening letter or email, that kind of thing. And it says, hey, you're behind, you haven't done this. You're going to get a $10,000 fine. Just be aware. First off, the federal government does not do that. If they're going to fine you, you're going to know in advance. They're going to have communication with you. So when it comes to the FMCSA, look for their official letters, their documents. It might come from a state agency. Here in Colorado, you might get a letter from either the FMCSA or the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And if you're doing something with like the PUC, the Public Utilities Commission, here in Colorado, it's called DORA, Department of Regulatory Agencies. They will also communicate with you, but not a single time are they just going to call you and say, hey, you're going to get a fine. And they're not going to send you a letter and say, if you don't do this registration, you're going to get a fine. So be leery of that. So many times people have called me up and said, okay, we paid it. You guys should have been taking care of this, but we went ahead and paid that. And I was like, what'd you pay? And guess what? I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't have paid them a thing. That was not a legit situation. So you got scammed. Be careful. I see these scams. We're at the first of the year. We're coming up to the first of the year right now. And this is, I think, one of the biggest scams in DOT right about now that we're seeing is going to be UCR, Unified Carrier Registration. People come out of the woodwork. A lot of phishing and smishing going on with that. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that just in a minute in case you hadn't heard of those types of scams. But you're going to hear some different things that kind of come up with those scams. Some of these companies will actually do your registration. So I hate to say, hey, they're a scammer, but if you pay close attention, you're going to see that the fee schedule is sometimes, maybe a small percentage, for some of the legitimate companies that say, yeah, well, you're just got to pay us because, we're doing the work for you. I get that one. But sometimes you see it's double, quadruple, and it's just an astronomical fee that they're going to ask to charge that. Well, when you go to the FMCSA, or if you go to like UCR.gov, the official UCR page, you can see the fee schedule and it does not match. And some of these companies will charge you an exorbitant amount. I've seen DOT number filings, which are free if you do it yourself. I think we even only charge like $35 if we do an update for you. It's super, super easy. If you do it wrong, it can cause you problems. And so we're happy to help a lot of our clients out. A lot of our clients, we just do it automatically. That's not the point I'm trying to make, so I'm kind of off on a tangent here. You just want to really make sure that you are aware. If you don't understand or you don't buy off on something that somebody's doing, ask your expert, go to somebody that's helping. Just don't respond to and fall for any of these types of situations. I think the biggest scam out there is just the overcharge that somebody's going to charge you. It's like $600 to do an FMCSA update. And, back before we got this new Modus system, it was 3 screens. I mean, you'd log in, you'd put in your FMCSA PIN, your DOT number, you'd verify who you were, and you'd click through 3 screens, update your address if you needed to, update your annual mileage, update your driver and vehicle count. 3 screens, next, and then it'd be done. And somebody would charge you, $600 for that. And it literally only takes, or used to take, like 5 minutes. Okay, maybe a little longer now that once you get your modus, your portal set up, it should still only take you about 5 minutes to do an FMCSA update. So keep that in mind. The IRS, is of course letting us know that we're up on the calendar year, so that means all the tax fraud and everything else is going on, and those are going to start coming out the woodwork. And I was reading through that, and it sounds, I'm not going to talk about all of them, but it sounds an awful lot like the same things that we see in the DOT, except for when it's an IRS scam. Obviously, they're trying to get into your money. All of these scammers are after one thing, and that is money. Some of them, you got to be careful because some of them will, of course, steal your identity, which can happen even in trucking. A lot of people don't realize it, but your DOT number can get hijacked. We had this happen. It's been a couple years ago now. One of our clients went through and they gave out their information, and they shouldn't have. But it turned into a big mess. They didn't even know that their DOT number had gotten hijacked. So they're sitting here, they're conducting business as usual. And next thing you know, they start getting bill collectors. They start getting brokers and freight forwarders, companies that are calling them. They're getting notified that they are getting the blocked, that, they can no longer carry loads. So they reached out to me. I started working on it, started making phone calls. I kind of did my old investigation. I kind of jumped into my old habits of my law enforcement days. And I actually tracked this all the way down. I got the actual scammers on the phone with me. I got them talking to me. Then they realized that it wasn't what they thought it was. They hung up and they would never answer again. And miraculously, they dumped that DOT number and went on to another one. So I took all the correspondence, everything that I gathered up. I tracked down the agent in charge with the FBI. I actually spoke to that individual who essentially just told me that there's not a lot they can do about these types of scams that happen in DOT, because the scammers, they come in, they'll get, several hundred thousands of dollars, and they'll use that DOT number, and then they dump it and move on to the next. And the FBI is always a step behind them, and they can't seem to catch them. And, I was talking with him, the agent in charge, and I got names of individuals. I didn't get locations, but, I got phone numbers and things like that. And I like to believe that, that those are 2 bits of information you think the FBI could do something with. He was impressed that I got that far, because that was more information that he was able to get. But the last I heard of it, as soon as I did talk to those individuals, they dumped that DOT number and moved on. Lesson to self is just be very, very careful giving out your information. So some of the biggest scams that we get are going to be the phishing scams, especially in DOT. A scam is when you get like an email that's going to be sent by the fraudsters, and it's claiming to be, from that specific government agency, whether it's from the DOT, whether it's from the IRS, and it's going to lure you as the victim into the scam a variety of different uses. They're going to entice you. In the DOT, they threaten you with compliance and heavy fines, things like that, tell you you're going to get a fine. With the IRS, they're threatening to withhold your return, or maybe they're even coming at you saying you have a return waiting for you and you got to claim it, different things like that. So be aware of those phishing emails. Okay, the IRS or the FMCSA don't email you some things like that. And typically when you do get email correspondence, it's very clearly from those individuals. And when you call them, you are going to get the actual FMCSA, not a call center or something like that out of country, whatever the case could be. Then you have smishing, which is a newer term. I wasn't exactly 100% familiar with that in the past, but that's going to be what they call the text scams, where they're sending you SMS, text messages, and there's still going to be using like alarming language, threatening language, such as your account has been put on hold, or there's been unusual activity, or you haven't filed certain paperwork and you're going to get a fine, different things like that. Again, definitely red flag. You get anything over text message, just automatically assume that this is going to be a scam. And when in doubt, call your friend and ask. And your friend, we're here at Front Range Compliance. We keep our doors open. So if you do have questions, we're happy to try to give you some guidance. We're not going to send you an invoice just because you dialed our phone number. That's how we give back to this industry. So that kind of thing. So a couple other big scams that you kind of see and deal with out there, are very, very common is going to be social media advice. People on social media who are claiming you can do certain things or run certain things. There are a lot of experts out there, people that claim to be experts just because they have a channel and they have a following does not necessarily mean that that's good and that they're doing the right thing. I think that some people just kind of gets them off if they can sit there and say, we got so many people to cook this meal a certain way, and it's like, no, that's not right. That's not how you do stuff like that. Well, with the DOT, IRS, be very leery of that. Some of those are really bad advice. A lot of people will want to gain access to your individual accounts. So with this motives coming up, this is going to be targeted. There's going to be a lot of scammers, a lot of people using their brains to try to figure out how to get access, gain access, or they're going to call and represent and say, hey, we can help you with this modernization, FMCSA registration system. And you think somebody's helping you and they're not. So don't just trust anybody that calls in. Another big one is fake charities. Remember, with the charities and the charitable donations, they have to be a registered company if you're going to donate, if you're going to give to those individuals, for your tax purposes or whichever else. There are a million different fake organizations that are out there, that kind of thing. So with that being said, think twice about just clicking on anything. If it's a scam, if it's a text and it's got a link in it, you click on it, it's going to be too late. Or if it's a suspicious email, you click on it, it's going to be too late. And unfortunately, I would tell you, I even get some of these from people that I know. So look at the email, ask yourself the questions, do like a self-diagnostic check. Good friend, and I'm not going to name his company, but just a couple months ago, it happened to him. I got an email from this individual, and I thought it was great. Hadn't heard from this guy in a little while, so I was like, oh, man, it's so good to hear from you. And, because it kind of started off with, hey, man, just checking in, seeing how you're doing. Well, that's the kind of email I would expect. I responded to him, and I got a follow-up email that I went, oh, no, this ain't right. I know this person, and he would never speak to me in the way that this individual was talking to me. So I actually I texted him and said, hey, just want you to know. And he said, yeah, we're hacked. So it can happen to anybody. He's not somebody that I would expect that to happen to. But, when you let your guard down, you're not thinking something, maybe you accidentally click on something you're not aware of. The click is all it took. You click it, and next thing you know, they're in your system. They're hacking you. They got your email. They got everybody you have emails to. And the scam it's like a shotgun blast. It just goes out there and hits everybody. So you don't want to truck around and find out on that. Be very, very careful with your clicks. Don't trust it. If you know the individuals, call them and say, hey, I just got a message from you. And just something to be very, very leery of. So pay very close attention, protect everything you got. And with that, that's going to kind of take me to the end of our little topic here. Luke, you want to throw anything in there at the end of this?
No, I mean, just keep your head on a swivel and look out for these weird messages that they send you, because like you said, one click and it's over,
Yeah, it's not even just our businesses, it's our personal lives too. I know with like my mother, she is gullible. She believes that everybody. She thinks that everything is good and you can trust everything. So, you got to pass this on to your family members and everything else. Keep an eye out. The elderly, these scamsters and fraudsters, they love to hit the vulnerable. So again, just kind of keep an eye on those you love and those around you. With that, we're going to be coming into the first of the year. So I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Happy New Year, everybody. Appreciate all the work that you do. Truck drivers, hey, thank you for moving these commodities down the roadway. I don't think you get the thanks that you need. I definitely believe in thank a trucker. We wouldn't be where we were at today without each of your lives and the time that you spend out on these roadways. So thank you very much for what you do. All the safety coordinators that are out there, thank you for the services and the work that you do to keep your drivers, your employees, and the community around your truck safe. So with that being said, Happy New Year, everybody. May 2026 be a blessed year for us all, and keep her shiny side up and keep her moving forward. Thank you.